So, here you go, Charles.
I also saw on Reddit today, or yesterday, that today should be National Mic Check Day, because the date's 1-1-2-1-2. It's like, I mean, the perfect time for this. So this is a story about birth and death. It's my senior year of high school. I'm 17 years old, and first semester, I would take my sister, who was a year younger than me, and my best friend to school every day. And on the way, we would always see this guy on the street corner who was this, well-dressed black gentleman, and we'd always drive by him, and he would, just throw up the deuces as we go by, and so we just throw them back. And so that earlier that summer, my granddad had just moved in. He's like, 80 years old, sharp as a tack, just had his leg amputated. And, he's like, he was with us because my nanny, his wife, my mom's mom, couldn't take care of him because, she's like on too many prescription pain meds and kind of nuts and is, just like would physically abuse him. And so it was just a crazy story. So he's with us. He's got two wheelchairs. He's got one normal one that my brother and I learned how to balance on. And the other one he would just sit in. He's got this stump hanging off. And, he had a thing called phantom pain where he thinks, his foot is still there. And so we'd go over and we'd, stamp where his foot used to be, and he'd freak out, and there's nothing there. I mean, it's just, and so he'd have us, rub it and everything, and then we're just rubbing this hair around his foot. And so he would sit there and would watch Fox News all day long. Bill O'Reilly, just eyes glazed over. And in his little motorized wheelchair, and on the side of it, there was this little dial that controlled the sensitivity. And so he'd be kind of zoning out, and I'd go over and crank it up to 10. And so then he'd start going again. It would be just going and freaking out. And so one day I'm taking him to the hospital, and just for whatever, and we passed the guy on the street corner selling newspapers. And he's, throwing up the deuces, and I look over, and my granddad's throwing them back like he's done it every day of his life. And so my dad also threw up the deuces a lot. He was, kind of a hippie, but he was a good guy. He was my baseball coach, my soccer coach. He was a really great conversationalist, and by great conversationalist, I mean he was just a fabulous bullshitter. Chatty Chuck was his name. And so he was naturally wanted to be a politician, and was running for mayor once, and almost won my sophomore year of high school. And was just a pretty street smart kind of guy, but just was an independent contractor and always got paid under the table, but he was my dad, and so that's just how it was. And so it's my senior year. This all comes together. It was my senior year and middle of basketball season, and basketball was a big deal because if you played basketball, girls wanted to have sex with you. I just airballed the entire time, nothing. And I also found out that my sister, who's also a girl, year younger than me, tall, blonde, kind of pretty, would just fuck anything in sight. And, which includes, half of my friends, most of the basketball team. And so my mom and dad, they start arguing a lot. And, I kind of stay out of it. But then, my dad, he just starts kind of pulling some stuff. My mom, I didn't get really along well with my mom. And he's, but he's kind of going behind her back and being sneaky and, and let me get this straight. My mom is a really strong, independent woman, and I love her to death. But, growing up, she could kind of be emotionally and mentally kind of manipulative. And so, but my dad, he was just, I'd come home from basketball practice, and for a while there, and he was just going at it, and he would just talk in circles, and my mom and him were just, I don't know, it was just kind of a weird time. And so I kind of had to have my mom's back. And so Christmas rolls around, and they're like arguing. I don't know what the hell it's about. It's, all my family's there, and family gets involved. And, yeah, so it's just like, I don't know, it's the same shit, different day. Life goes on. So then January comes, and Granddad dies. I remember it was crazy. He before he died, he was getting ready to go to the hospital and was getting in the car, and was this stubborn old man and wouldn't let anybody help him as he scooted down the back steps on one leg. And I remember him sitting in the car, and I remember the last thing I ever said to him. I looked at him straight in the eye, and I go, "Hey, Granddad," and he looks back, and I go, "Just take it easy." And so, Mom comes back from the hospital a couple days later. And, he had made his bed before he left, and there on his bed in just a nice, neat little pile, he had left all of the documents that my mom would need to finalize his death. And so it was just, I think of him dying, and I think of him just standing straight up, on his one leg, and just staring death in the face and just taking like a fucking man. And so, So things kind of got crazier and crazier between my mom and dad. My dad just started doing a bunch of weird shit. He started seeing stuff, and he started seeing these microfibers in the air, and starts thinking that somebody's controlling the microfibers, and he thinks my mom is controlling the microfibers, and so it's just we're what the hell's going on? We think he's becoming schizophrenic or just having a mental breakdown or something. And it gets crazier and crazier, and so my mom's sleeping in my sister's room, and he starts just doing weird shit to my little brother, who's Logan, who's just this 9-year-old little innocent kid. And so we basically decide, we're gonna, one weekend while he's gone, to just temporarily move out. And we moved out it was in February for about 2 weeks, and my mom, my sister, my brother, they stayed with some family friends. I stayed with some other family friends by myself. And we're out of the house, and, things are kind of crazy. And we decided to come back one weekend, or one time when he's, gone just to check on the house. And he's, changed all the locks, and it's just what the hell? And we have to break into our own house. And we go inside, and he's, torn up the baseboards, and there's just shit everywhere. And, he's just, I guess he was looking for these microfibers in some kind of delusional rage, and so I don't know what's going on. So my sister looks under his pillow and finds this little straw, and on the inside of the straw is cocaine. And come to find out, my mom, the argument that they had at Christmas was basically, this she had found some cocaine in a pocket in his jeans, and found that, and found some Oxycontin and some methadone that he had stolen from my granddad. So we're what the fuck, man? Crazy time in my life. Gosh, looking back, my granddad dies, dad starts going nuts. I'm in the middle of basketball season. We move out. We ended up getting a restraining order, it was actually an order of protection against him. We found out he does drugs. And I proceed to lose my virginity. 10 days before my 18th birthday, I think Aladdin was playing in the background. And so, it was turned down. And so, so things eventually stabilized. We moved back in, Dad stayed away, finished out my senior year pretty strong. And then my sister decides to come out of the closet. What? You mean you fucked all those guys just to spite me? She everybody in the family thinks, oh, it's just a fad. And no, she's still gay. It was actually, it's kind of funny. I always joke with my mom. I'm like, Mom, you raised all us kids that have one thing in common. We all like women. And actually, okay, this is funny. The girl who I lost my virginity to also turned out to be gay, and actually had a thing for my sister. I mean, like, I wish the story had a good ending. But, you know, we could never prove that it was my dad who had the drugs and did the drugs, and through, you know, the glory of the American judicial system, he ended up getting visitation rights for my little brother every other weekend. You know, he still lives with his mom, is still, you know, who's just this manipulated little old lady. He still does drugs, still doesn't pay child support. He actually ran for mayor again my sophomore year of college. This time only got like a couple hundred votes. Blames everything on my mom, thinks she's the one who's on drugs. Logan tried to, you know, get the visitation taken away, and, you know, the court won't allow it because he's just, you know, he doesn't do any harm, and he's kind of just, he's just nothing. And so I haven't seen him, had any significant contact with him in about 5 years or so. You know, he lives like 10 minutes away from me and knows how to get a hold of me. And I was out in Arizona just recently, visiting his brother. You know, hadn't seen him in a long time. He's a good guy. He's on our side. He was actually made it as a politician. Was a senator in Arizona. And I'm sitting there telling him all this. He's like, you know, Charles, I know you want to change everything and try and help out your dad, but you got to realize, you know, this guy's kind of always been this stubborn and has just, you know, the foul play's been going on for a long time. And you know, he's a 50-year-old and he can't pay rent, can't pay child support, and he's probably just not worth your time. So yeah, you know, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And, you know, I got Logan, my little brother. I've kind of taken responsibility of him. You know, I guess I'm kind of his role model. He's kind of a shithead. And, you know, I remember one time, this is kind of a big deal, I think, at the time. Didn't really know it. I took Logan aside when I was like 18. He was 9. Right after all this had happened, I get down on his level, and I look at him right in the eye, and I go, Logan, we have to promise each other that this is not going to fuck up our lives. And it hasn't, you know. Mom's doing great, sister's doing great, Logan's doing great, I'm doing pretty good. You know, and just, gosh, I get to see Logan pretty often, and I go over to pick him up at the house, and sure enough, we still drive by that corner where the guy's there, and he's still going up the deuces.